Good morning to all of you. Yesterday I have finished about Niti Aayog. Okay, I have covered the details about Niti Aayog. The left facts about Niti Aayog is the functions of Niti Aayog. Okay, apart from functions, there are few criticism about Niti Aayog, criticism by opposition parties of Indian polity. So see, those things are not as important as perspective of our UPSC examination, because the function I have already told you that these are the powers of Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog can do these or those things. So actually those are the same powers and functions to the Niti Aayog. So it doesn't need to cover those things again. Okay, and even apart from those things, the criticism about Niti Aayog is not going to help and perspective related to particularly for preliminary examination of UPSC. That's why I am moving to the another topic of our polity session. This is also so important regarding particularly nowadays. Okay, so let's move ahead and we will see some details about today's topic. So first of all, see, today's our topic of polity session is National Human Rights Commission. I hope all of you have heard it earlier. If not, then don't worry, it will be clear all the facts related to NHRC, that means National Human Rights Commission. In short form, we call it as NHRC. By name itself, you can term it as national. It means it is at the union level. It's not at the state level. Okay, for a state level, there is separate a State Human Rights Commission, SHRC. Okay, respectively to every state, each and every state. But this is about national. Okay, at national level, at union level, at central level. So by name itself, you can term it as national. Okay, means central level, means the whole India it is covering. Human, okay, human means it is definitely related with human resources. Human resources means what? Means related with the dignity, liberty, okay, of individual, freedom of express of speech of individual. So national human rights, so it is definitely about some human rights. So what are human rights? This is a separate session under which I will tell you about the whole things about human rights. Human rights even at the global perspectives, not even the our nation only. So National Human Rights Commission. So this commission is about mainly for the human rights. Okay, protecting human rights commission. Fine. So in short form, it is called NHRC. It is really an important topic, particularly for UPSC examinations and even for really all over around the PCS examination conducted by each and every state. So now we will move ahead and look about the compositions, the functions when it was established. NHRC, is it a constitutional body, a statutory body, or as like yesterday, like Niti Aayog, is it a like is NHRC a constitutional body or a statutory body or a body like has been set up by executive resolution? Okay, means by cabinet union. Okay, union cabinet. So which type of body it is and when it was established, all we are going to know. Just stay with us. Okay, I hope yesterday I have cleared all the doubts relating to constitutional bodies, means constitutional organizations, statutory organizations, and the organizations set up or formed by the executive resolution, means by union cabinet. So I hope the differences between all these three things is clear to all of you. That's why I am moving ahead. Otherwise, if you are not getting the lecture of yesterday, you will not understand it properly, particularly the first or second slide of it. So let's move ahead to the next slide and we will see some more things about the NHRC. So we focus here. I am reading word by word. If even it is not visible properly to all of you, then hear my words clearly. Okay, I hope I am properly audible to all of you. Fine. So let's start. See here, NHRC means National Human Rights Commission was established, means was set up as a statutory body. So even in first slide, which kind of body this NHRC is, it is showing here. So it is not a constitutional body or not a body formed by union cabinet, means not a body formed by which one? Executive resolution. But in spite of that, NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, was established as a statutory body. A statutory body means set up by an act of parliament, means resolution tabled in parliament means like a bill. Okay, bill tabled in parliament, passes by both the houses, and after signature of President of India, this bill will become an act, and this act is known as a statutory act. Okay, so if any body will be set up by any kind of act passed by the parliament, then this type of body will be known as a statutory body. Fine. I hope all the things regarding a statutory body is clear. Even not clear, then go to my previous lecture, the lecture of your study session. Okay, I have covered the whole things relating the three bodies. I have made differences clearly. So it is an statutory body, established that. So by ending here itself, okay, you must know as this body means NHRC was set up after independence, because if it was before independence or just after independence, then definitely it was a constitutional body, because it was not mentioned in the Constitution of India. That's why it has been set up as a statutory body. So under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Okay, so first of all, see what happened, the history behind the NHRC. After independence, the government of India felt that, okay, the government of 1990s, okay, felt that it's time to set up a commission who is going to protect national human rights. Okay, means human rights at the union level, the rights of human all over all the states of India. So the government felt that in 1990s that it is necessary to set up this kind of commission. So the government of India cannot directly set up those commissions, not at all. It is only way to set up that just by a resolution of executive, means by union cabinet. If that will be set up by union cabinet, then those acts or those bodies will not have as much as power as right now NHRC has at right now position. Okay, that's why the government of India first of all passes an act. After passing an act, then on the basis of that act, okay, on the formation of that act, only then there is a possibility to set up any body on the basis of that act. So first of all, the government of India did what? So the government of India actually passes an act in the Parliament of India in 1993. That act is known as Protection of Human Rights Act. Okay, Protection of Human Rights Act. This is a so important act regarding our examination. Okay, even in international convention, fine, in UN, United Nations, okay, United Nations conventions, these human rights topics are so important throughout the global level. Okay, in the perspective of the whole world. So first of all, the government of India passes an act in parliament. That act is known as Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Fine, I hope it is clear. You have to remember this act, Protection of Human Rights Act. Okay, this is such a simple name. First of all, remember as Human Rights Act, then just added Protection of, okay, Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Only on the basis of act this NHRC body was set up. Fine. So I hope it is clear to all of you. If there is any confusion regarding a statutory or that how any body is set up on the basis of any act, then you can contact to our team. Just 1 minute, I am going to clear all this. Okay, see, like see the human rights, the national human rights. Okay, first of all, government of India feels that there is so necessity to form an organization, to form a body that is a governmental body that will protect the all over the states of India, that will protect the rights of the humans. Okay, rights of the humans. Fine. So government of India cannot directly set up any body. Okay, first of all, there will be any kind of act, okay, anything there should be necessary only on the basis of on those acts this type of body can be set up by government of India. So first of all, to set up NHRC, the government of India has to pass an act. That's why government of India have passed this act, that is Protection of Human Rights Act, passes in 1993. That's why it is given as the name of Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Then after the formation of passage of this act, then it is the possibility to form this body, that is NHRC. Fine, now it is clear, I hope so. That's why I am moving to the next slide. So let's see. The act came into force with retrospective effect from September 28, 1993. So first of all, don't confuse in here. The act I am talking about, not I am talking about NHRC. Okay, first of all, we are talking about the basis on which NHRC has been set up. So the basis of NHRC has been set up was the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. So the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 came into force, means came into action with retrospective effect. So what is retrospective effect? I will tell you right now, from September 28, 1993. So just stay on this slide. I will clear that what is retrospective and what is prospective. Fine, what is prospective and what is retrospective. It will cover around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, under this time frame, I will try my best to differentiate between prospective laws and retrospective laws. That is, here it is written as retrospective. So this act is retrospective. So what is the difference between prospective and retrospective? Just stay on this slide. I will clear all those. Just hear me. See, for assumption only, just assume hypothetical situation. Okay, right now assume that you have committed any kinds of offense, means any kinds of crime. Right now, a crime like you have beaten a child that is traveling on the road. Okay, that is walking on the road. Okay, actually just assume, I am giving an example. Suppose, okay, suppose a child that is age of 16 years is driving a bicycle. Okay, only bicycle on the road. Fine. Then in front of that boy, okay, a motor vehicle person coming towards that boy. Fine. And in front of both of them, there is a collision. Okay, there is a collision. Fine. There is a collision, means both the bicycles, okay, bicycle and motor vehicle both have been collided. Okay, accident. Fine. Now what happened? If after the conclusion of all the reports regarding that accident or that collision, okay, just hopeful that there will be no harm to any of the persons. Okay, because it will be better. So just now assume that after the conclusion of all the reports of that accident or that collision, okay, the final report is that nobody has actually have intention to hit other. Nobody has intentionally hit to other. Okay, other one. So both have done mistakes, and because of both the mistakes, both have collided. Okay, but see, assumption. Fine. If there is a small child traveling through the same area, okay, by on foot, okay, on foot, just a small child like 8 to 10 years, 10 or 12 years, just walking on the road on the same region, same area. Okay, now if by collision between them, okay, some of the parts of vehicle or motor vehicle have collided with that a small boy too. Okay, that's why that a small boy just hurts little bit. Okay, hurts little bit only, it doesn't affect him. Fine. So if now the case is that, understand me clearly, now the case is that if the final report of that collision is both have done mistakes, fine, and both have not done it by intentionally, then what will happen? Then who will be responsible for the, okay, for the injury of that small boy? For the injury of that small boy, who is responsible? Okay, so right now, if assume that if right now there is no any law regarding the punishment of both those persons who is driving bicycle and motor vehicle, then who is responsible? Who will be termed as responsible for that boy? So now just assume that there is no any law under which this is saying that if two motor vehicles are collided by unintentionally, by not by intentionally, but just by mistake both have collided, then there is no punishment law. Just assume it. Right now there is no punishment law, just for assumption, hypothetical example. Fine. It is clear. But the day after collision, the Parliament of India have passed an act. Fine. The Parliament of India have passed an act. Okay. Fine. That the act is that if there will be any such kind of collision, then both will be punished. Okay, both, who is driving bicycle and motor vehicle, both will be punished. Okay, so now what happened? Since the matter is of yesterday and the law is made today, so the is that law that has been made today, is that law is applicable to the crime that has happened yesterday, is that applicable? If, hear me clearly, if that law that is made today itself passed by parliament is kind of retrospective, like here retrospective, then this law will cover even the crime of yesterday accident, okay, if the date will be mentioned from yesterday in that act, fine, if that is retrospective. But if that law that has been passed today itself in the parliament and that is not in retrospective in nature, if that is prospective in nature, prospective, then that prospective in nature of act that has been passed by parliament today itself, that act is not going to be punished the incidents for yesterday's collision. Are you getting it or not? I am just in 1 minute I am concluding it. Okay, for look here. So assume just a person A who is driving a bicycle. So assume that just a hypothetical example. Assume this is a person A driving bicycle, this is person B driving motor vehicle. Okay, this is person driving bicycle and this is person B driving motor vehicle. Fine. And a small boy of 12 years, okay, is traveling through the same area, okay, same area, on walk, on by foot. If their bicycle, his bicycle and his motor vehicle have collided but not collided intentionally, neither A has collided with B by intention, okay, by intention, neither B has collided with A by intention, okay, both has been collided unintentionally, okay, not by intentionally, and in that collision that boy who is walking towards that area who got injured little bit, okay, only little bit, doesn't harm more, fine. So just assume hypothetical example that from today itself there is no law that is said to be punished, okay. Now listen one thing, who is responsible, who should be punished for the injury of that boy? Either A, either B, or either both of them. So just for a hypothetical example, assume that right now when collision has taken place, then at that time there is no any law even in IPC or CRPC. Okay, what is IPC, CRPC, we will all get in upcoming lectures. So IPC or CRPC, there is no any law, okay, that there is no any law for any unintentional collision. Fine, and if there is unintentional collision between two motor vehicle, then there is no law to punish any one of them. Fine. So the matter here itself finished, nobody will be punished, and this boy will be treatment in any of the primary health sectors, and after that the matter is over. But today, just assume that today this has happened, okay, and tomorrow in the Parliament of India, if the Parliament of India passes an act and said that even if there will be any unintentional collision between any of the vehicles, then both will be punished. Just for assume, or anyone will be punished, anyone will not be punished because it is unintentional. So when it will be punished, both will be punished. So today the collision has taken place and today there is no law to punish any one of them. Okay, so he is responsible for that boy, okay, no one, but so no one will be sent to jail or even no one will be turned FIR against any one of them. Now just assume that tomorrow the Parliament of India passes an act, and in that act it is clearly mentioned that even if there is collision unintentionally, even after unintentional collision, okay, both will be punished. Both will be punished, A or B, A and B, both will be punished. Then, okay, then right now is, just hear me, is the law that will be made tomorrow in Parliament of India, is that law will be applicable to both of them? Because the law has made tomorrow, is meaning tomorrow, and this collision has taken place today. So is that law will punish to both of them or not? Okay, so if that law is retrospective in nature, means retrospective in nature, then retrospective means there will be a date. Retrospective means punishment will be given, okay, before the date of making of laws. So if just assume that this collision has taken place on 20th of January, and this law has been made in Parliament in 21st of January. Then this law has clearly mentioned that this law that has been passed in Parliament clearly mentioned that this law is retrospective in nature, and this law will come in effect from 1st of January the same year. Then yes, both of them will be punished under this law because it is retrospective in nature and the date is also covering. Fine. But what happened if that law that is passed by Parliament or Act which is not retrospective, if that law passed by Parliament is prospective in nature, prospective in nature. So prospective in nature means the time at which this law has been passed and taking place as an action, then after that time if any incident will happen, then anyone will be termed as guilty. Okay, if this law will be prospective, made on 21st of January, passed by Parliament, then both of them will not be punished if that law will be prospective. Okay, I hope now it is clear that what is retrospective and what is prospective. But listen one thing, in criminal cases, in criminal things, okay, in relating to criminal issues, there is no, okay, the constitution itself mentioned that there will be no retrospective laws when we talk about criminal laws. Okay, retrospective laws can be made, retrospective acts can be made only in some particular things, that is like tax, okay, tax systems, okay, revenue system, these kinds of systems under which retrospective laws can be made. But in criminal offences, okay, regarding criminal offences, retrospective laws cannot be made. Fine. So I hope what is retrospective and prospective, it is clear to all of you. Even if not, then contact us, or you can see the lecture again for this 5 to 10 minutes. You will easily get it because this is really an important one. Fine. So the act came into force. Which act? I am talking about Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 came into force with retrospective effect from September 28, 1993. So definitely this law has been passed by Parliament, that is Protection of Human Rights Act has been passed in Parliament after 28th September 1993. Only because of that this date has been given, because it is retrospective. So definitely it will be came in action before the passing of law. Okay, the date before passing of law. So definitely the law or the act has been passed after 28th September. That why the date has been mentioned here, because it is retrospective. So retrospective from which date? So retrospective from 28th of September and the year is same 1993. I hope about the Protection of Human Rights Act is clear to all of you. I am hoping so. Okay, that's why I am moving to the next slide. First of all, I have to erase it. Okay. Now let's see. The Commission, it is about next slide. Okay, so the Commission is the watchdog of human rights in the country. Watchdog means if your parents is here and you are his daughter or son, then your parents are actually watchdog towards you. Your parents are looking at you that what are you doing in your whole daily life. Okay, what are you doing in your whole day or night. Okay, so the parents is actually playing a role of watchdog. So the commission, that is NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, is the watchdog of human rights. That is the rights of human is implemented in the each and every area or not. So it is the watchdog. NHRC is playing the role of watchdog of human rights in our nation, that is in India. I hope till now it is clear to all of you. So I am moving to the next slide. Now let's see something more about NHRC. First of all, let's see about some of the human rights. That what are human rights? So human rights are the rights relating to life, liberty, equality. Okay, just the basic things, the basic rights of each and every human. That is rights of life, rights of liberty, rights of equality. Okay, and dignity. Okay, means respect. So life, liberty, equality and dignity, these rights are the basic rights of each and every human throughout the global level. There are some exceptions, nations, okay, like right now we can give the examples of Pakistan, okay, that there is no life, liberty, equality and dignity in Afghanistan right now, that is attacked by Taliban. You can call that example. So human rights are the rights relating to life, liberty, dignity and equality of the individual, means of each and every human, guaranteed by the constitution. Guaranteed by the constitution means what? Now bring out the fundamental rights that I have covered in initial lectures of polity. Are you getting it? So those actually fundamental rights, are those implemented in a proper way in India or not? Those are actually also look why or playing as a role of watchdog by NHRC too. Fine. So those rights which are guaranteed, those rights which are given to each and every individual, and those rights which are given are guaranteed by the Constitution of India, like fundamental rights, you can give the examples, or embodied in the international conventions, like see, in United Nations there are different conventions made for human rights. Okay, there are, see, all the human rights are almost same throughout the global level, almost same, life, liberty, equality, dignity, the same thing, and so on, some other things too, and enforceable courts in India. Fine. NHRC will look and play a role of watchdog only in those human rights, okay, which we are talking about Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is giving the rights, or any rights which can be enforced in the courts, means if any right is violating, then that person can go to the courts. On those rights, those human rights, NHRC is playing its role till now from 1993. So I hope it is clear to all of you. So can I move to the next slide? So moving. Now let's see about the composition or a structure of National Human Rights Commission. Okay, there is little confusing one of composition about different things because included in like Niti Aayog. So that's why now be more conscientious about composition of NHRC. Okay, so let's see one by one. Okay, I am starting the composition, means framework, a structure, that who is involving in NHRC, who is chairperson, who are ex officio members, and who are others. Okay, who is appointing all of them, and some other terms and conditions regarding composition of NHRC. We will all look at these points. So now let's move to the next slide and we will see right now. Okay, I hope the time is left until now. Okay, so first of all, let's say about chairperson. Okay, chairperson. Who is the chairperson of NHRC? Yesterday I told you about chairperson of Niti Aayog, that is Prime Minister of India. But right now we will know the chairperson, about the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, chairperson of NHRC. So see clearly here, retired Chief Justice of India. Retired Chief Justice of India. You can give the examples of, okay, like Justice Bobde, Ranjan Gogoi, okay, Deepak Misra. Fine, you can give many of the examples. I am giving the examples of last 3 Chief Justice of India. So those are retired Chief Justice, not the Chief Justice. Those are actually retired Chief Justice. So only retired Chief Justice of India. Retired Chief Justice means not I am talking about High Court, I am talking about Supreme Court. Okay, so retired Chief Justice of India or a judge of the Supreme Court. But listen here, here it is not mentioned particularly about Supreme Court. Okay, so where, okay, I have verified it. Okay, so where there is no any kinds of such information clearly mentioned, even I have read it in the law, okay, passed by on that act. I have read the almost the whole papers of NHRC. Under those papers, this point is little bit confusing. Okay, that either there will be retired Chief Justice of Supreme Court, or even if a High Court retired Chief Justice can sit. So there is a confusion in it, but since there is no any particular thing mentioned, so that's why we will return both of them. Anyone can be. Okay, so retired Chief Justice of India or a judge of the Supreme Court. Okay, or a judge of the Supreme Court. But till now, what has actually happened? I am giving the examples. Till now, there is no any retired Chief Justice of any High Court. Okay, and listen one thing again. Chief Justice is what mainly used for Supreme Court, not for High Court. Okay, for High Court, the head judge, we will not call a Chief Justice of High Court. Chief Justice itself means Supreme Court. Okay, so that's why after the conclusion of all, I have seen many of the lectures. Before starting this this lecture, I have covered many lectures to just find out that about this confusion. So after the whole things debates, and I have talked a lot of persons, after that at the final conclusion I am giving you the guarantee that till now there is no, the head judge of High Court have taken place as chairperson of NHRC. So the final conclusion is that only a present judge of Supreme Court, that who is right now working, or any retired judge of, any retired Chief Justice of Supreme Court can be chairperson of NHRC. That is the final conclusion. Because it should not confuse in it, that's why I have given it 2-3 examples. After that I am giving my conclusion. Fine. Because see, I can direct give my conclusion, but that is going to some confusing around you. Okay, because Chief Justice itself means Chief Justice of Supreme Court. So retired Chief Justice of Supreme Court or a judge of the Supreme Court too, any one of them. Okay, any one of the two. So anyone can be chairperson as president wants. Fine. Who will appoint? We will see all those. So I hope it is clear. So I am moving to the next slide. Now let's see. Second is members, and these members cannot be more than 5. Maximum 5 members. Maximum, or there is no minimum. There should be 5 members. Okay. There will be no less than 5 members. There will be not much more than 5 members. Exactly 5 members should be present in this members category. Fine. So the first one from the out of those 5, the first one should be a serving or retired judge of the Supreme Court. Means a serving means a present judge or a retired judge. I am not talking about retired Chief Judge. Okay, Chief Justice. So a serving judge. Okay, serving judge. Like right now Justice Ramanna, Chief Justice, but that is Chief Justice. Fine, that is Chief Justice. But here we are talking about a serving judge, not talking about a serving Chief Justice. Okay, so these are simple things, but you should be really clear, really visible to all of those things, because these are so confusing one that if you are not covering these lectures again and again 2 or 3 times, then it will be not cleared. Okay, you have to sit at one place and make notes. Only then you can reach at final conclusion and you will remember all those facts that is going to confuse you. So a serving or retired judge of the Supreme Court. Fine. I hope it is clear. Out of those 5, one should be this. The other 4 are, let's move to the next slide and I will tell you the other 4 things. Second one, a serving or retired Chief Justice of High Court. See, here Chief Justice of High Court mentioned, but it is not correct actually. For Chief Just word itself means Chief Justice of Supreme Court. Okay, because see, you can call it Chief Judge of High Court, but you call it Chief Justice. See, Chief Justice is a post, such a prominent post that is only applicable for the Supreme Court, not for High Court. So it is better to say that a serving or retired Chief Judge of a High Court. Okay, Chief Judge of a High Court. Even a present Chief Judge of any High Court or even any retired Chief Judge of any High Court can become a second member under those 5% member category. I hope both are things clear. These are confusing one, because when we will see number Y, number B, number C, all of them will looking as like same. Okay, like same one, but all are not like same one. Okay, all are different somehow. You have to conclude. Okay, because these are facts, you have to conclude it. So I am moving to the third one. Okay, so the third persons out of those 5 members is 3 persons. So out of those 5, I have told you 2. Okay, I have told you 2. Left is 3 persons. So those 3 persons, okay, one should be, out of those 3, one should be, at least one should be minimum woman. Okay, remember it, one should be a woman at least. A question may come that it is possible that there will be 2 women in the members of chairperson, in NHRC. Then yes, because here itself is an at least in minimum 1 woman should be present in those 5 members category. Minimum. Maximum it is 5. Okay, you can put 5 women in that 5 members team, but minimum you have to put 1 woman. But is directly there any woman can be included? It not. What are some eligibility criteria? Okay, all those 3 persons, after those 2 persons and even after that woman too, all those 3 persons must have knowledge or practical experience with respect to women rights. Okay, so this is only for, this eligibility criteria is only for mainly for these three persons. Not confusing in that only for it is eligibility criteria only for that woman. No, it is eligibility criteria for all those three persons. Okay, means practical knowledge about respect to women rights. Okay, women rights. So see how our government from 1993 itself has providing women rights. Okay, human rights including in women rights. So I hope it is clear about 5 members team inside NHRC. So I am moving to the next slide. Now let's see. There will be 3 members. Okay, 3 number. Okay, number 3 it is members, again members, but that is different one, that is fixed, that these will be the members, not will be nominated or appointed. This will be fixed that the chairperson of these committees will be the member of this, the chairman of these committees will be the member of, that is the fixed one. So ex officio chairpersons of, actually these are total, I hope it is total 6 persons, 7. Okay, under second number it is only 5 persons, but under 3 number members it is 7 number of persons should be in that. What are those 7 numbers? First member should be those, the member, okay, the chairperson of National Commission of Minorities, National Commission for Minorities. Even in our country there is a ministry of minorities. Okay, in Hindi you can call it as Alpasankyak. Okay, Alpasankyak, minorities. So there is a commission, that commission is known as National Commission of Minorities, National Commission for Minorities. So the person who is actually the present time chairperson of National Commission for Minorities, that chairperson will be fixed. Okay, that person definitely not appointed, nominated. If that person is a chairperson of National Commission for Minorities, then that person is definitely part of NHRC under this 3 member category. Okay, number 3 category. Again, second number is, since these are 7 persons members, so it is the first one. Now the second number is chairperson of National Commission for SCs, scheduled castes. Okay, there is also a commission known as National Commission for SCs, National Commission for Scheduled Castes. So the chairperson of National Commission for Scheduled Caste will also be a member of NHRC. So 2 chairpersons for National Commission for Minorities, National Commission for Scheduled Castes. So I am moving to the next slide. Okay, it is about National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, number 3, Scheduled Tribes, STs. So the chairperson of National Commission for Scheduled Tribes is also a member of, definitely that person will be a member of NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. So 3 things right now clear, for minorities, for scheduled caste, for scheduled tribe. The 4th one, National Commission for Women. Okay, there is a commission in our nation present that is called is like NHRC. There is also a mission. Okay, these are also a mission set up in our country. So 4 things are clear or not? First of all, National Commission for Minorities. Okay, the chairperson of National Commission for Minorities. Second one, the chairperson of National Commission for Scheduled Caste. Third one, the chairperson of National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. And the 4th thing is the chairperson or the chairman of National Commission for Women. I hope these 4 are clear. The remaining is 3. So let's see the 5th one, National Commission for BCs, backward classes. Okay, so there is also a commission that is called a National Commission for Backward Classes. So the chairperson or the chairman for National Commission for Backward Classes will also be a definite members of NHRC under this 3 members category, number 3 members category, not the second number category. Okay, so I hope till now 5 is clear. I am just revising it again. The chairperson, the chairman of the National Commission for Minorities. Second one, the chairman or the chairperson of the chairperson, same thing. So the second one is chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste. The third one, the chairman of the National Commission for the Scheduled Tribe. The 4th one, the chairman of the National Commission for Women. The 5th one, the chairman of the National Commission for Backward Classes. Till now I hope all the facts are clear to all of you. These are the definite members. Okay, the fixed members. So now move to the next slide and we will see the remaining 2. See, the chairman of the National Commission of Protection of Child Rights. Okay, child rights, protection of child rights. The 7th one, that is the last one, the chief commissioner for persons with disabilities. Disabilities means, okay, disabilities means, I hope you are getting it, disabilities, okay, some affected body parts, persons, disabilities. So, okay, the sixth one, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. The chairman of the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights would definitely be a member of National Human Rights Commission. Okay, fine. The last one is Chief Commissioner for persons with disabilities. Okay, there has been a group set up for particularly for disabilities people. Okay, so the Chief Commissioner of that group is called as Chief Commissioner for persons with disabilities. That is the seventh one. I hope till now all the seven are clear to all of you. In just 1 minute, I am just revising the all seven names. See, these seven persons are fixed. These will be definitely be included in NHRC members. The first one, the chairman of the which one, National Commission for Minorities. Second one, number two, the chairman, okay, the chairman of the which one, the chairman of National Commission for Scheduled Caste. The third one is chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Tribe. The fourth one is the chairman of the National Commission for Women. The fifth one is the chairman of the National Commission of Backward Classes. The sixth one is the chairman of the protection of, okay, child rights. Okay, the chairman of the National Commission for the protection of child rights. The seventh one is a chief commissioner, okay, chief commissioners for persons with disabilities. So these are the seventh one. Okay, seventh. All the seven one are definitely will be a member of National Human Rights Commissions. Just memorize. Okay, remember the whole name, all those seven names. These are really important one for our examination purpose, particularly for preliminary examinations. Really, this is an important one. That's why I am telling you again and again. So I hope it is clear to all of you. So now I am moving to the next slide. Now let's see. A sitting judge of the Supreme Court. Sitting judge means any judge who is at present judge of Supreme Court. Okay, Supreme Court, a sitting judge of the Supreme Court, okay, ordered sitting Chief Justice of High Court, okay, or means it not ordered, or the, see, a sitting judge of the Supreme Court or a sitting Chief Justice of High Court. See the differences. A sitting judge of Supreme Court, not sitting Chief Justice of Supreme Court. So sitting judge of Supreme Court means present judge of Supreme Court, or present means sitting Chief Judge of High Court. Chief Judge of High Court can be appointed, okay, because in few of the slides you have seen that there will be appointment of number fixed that this person can be included only when this person is a sitting judge, retired judge of Supreme Court and High Court. So see, these can be included in NHRC only after consulting with the Chief Justice of India, means CJI, means Chief Justice of Supreme Court. Right now, who is Chief Justice of Supreme Court? It is Ramanna, Justice Ramanna. Fine. So fine, it is clear to all of you that any of the judge, just remember, any judge can be included in NHRC only after the consultation with the Chief Justice of India, means Chief Justice of Supreme Court, CJI. I hope this is clear to all of you. So I am moving to the next slide. Now let's see. Actually, see, I have told you that one will be a chairperson. Apart from that chairperson, number two, 5 members, in which there will be eligibility criteria of Chief Justice of Supreme Court, High Court. Okay, these things, and the remaining three persons, under one should be women, under 3 persons should have a special knowledge about, practical knowledge about women rights. Fine. So these all, see, and after those 6 members, that is chairperson and 5 members, these are total 6 members, and after these 6 members, another 7 members. Okay, 7 members that I have given those that from commissions. So for those members, all knowing that this is the chairperson, so this will be directly included. So there will be no any appointed decision. If this is a chairman of National Commission of Women, so definitely that person will be a termed under the member of NHRC. But for 6 members, that is for chairperson and the remaining 5 persons, okay, that is 6 persons, will be appointed by the President of India, but on the recommendations of a 6-member committee. first of all there will be a 6-member committee will sit, okay, and that committee of 6 members will give recommendations, will give the recommendations of names to the president, then president will appoint those 6 persons, 1 chairpersons or chairman of NHRC, and the remaining 5, I hope you are getting it, remaining 5, okay, remaining 5. If you are confusing, just go to previous slides. So these 6 can be appointed by the president only, but not directly. First of all, there will be a 6-member committee, not 6 persons though. There will be a separate 6-member committee. Okay, 6 members person will sit in a committee, and that committee will give the recommendations of names that you can appoint these persons on these places under NHRC. Then president will appoint those persons. So who will included in this 6-member committee? This is also really interesting. You have to memorize the facts regarding all the 6 members. So I am moving to the next slide and we will see those 6-member committees. So moving to the next one. First one, Prime Minister. As it said, okay, so ultimately it is a Prime Minister. Who is it said? Like Niti Aayog, the head of Niti Aayog is Prime Minister. So this 6-member committee is headed by Prime Minister. So number 1 person is Prime Minister. Number 2, a Speaker of Lok Sabha. Are you getting it? The Speaker of Lok Sabha? Right now the Speaker of Lok Sabha is Om Birla. So a Speaker of Lok Sabha. Number 3, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So don't confusing in it. Here is not written as, okay, Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. Here is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. But here is Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, not Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Because Chairman of Rajya Sabha is ultimately Vice President. And Vice President is a constitutional body. Okay. So that's why here is Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. I hope all 3 numbers has been cleared. Prime Minister, as it said, of 6-member committee. Second, a Speaker of Lok Sabha, and third is Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. I hope it is clear. So I am moving to the next slide. Fourth one, Union Home Minister. Okay, Union Home Minister. Home Minister means Union Home Minister. Fifth one, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, and sixth one, Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha. Okay, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha and Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha. Are you getting it? The whole things. Fine. So there is definitely a Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha. There is definitely a Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha too. So I am repeating the whole names again of those 6-member committee who will give recommendation of names to the president, and then president will appoint the chairperson and the remaining 5 members, because the other 7 members are definitely the fixed one. Those are fixed, that these will be included definitely. There is no appointment or nominated type. Those will be fixed members. So for these 6 members, this appointment of those 6 persons, that is chairperson, other 5 members, okay, president will appoint, but on the recommendations given by a committee of 6 members. So under those 6-member committee, who will be included under those 6-member committee? First one, Prime Minister, as it said, of 6-member committee. Second one, a Speaker of Lok Sabha. Third one, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Fourth one, Union Home Minister. Fifth one, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, and the 6th one, Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha. So I hope all the things are clear to all of you. So if anything is remaining, I think remaining. So I am moving to the next slide. See, all these persons means I am talking about only 6 persons, that is chairperson and those 5 members, because after this 6 persons, those 7 members will continue as in the part of NHRC only till they are under the chairman of their respectively commissions. When they will be removed from their chairman as their respective commissions, then automatically they will be removed from NHRC. So for this 6 person, that is chairperson, and for other 5 members, they all 6 will hold office for a term of 3 years. Okay, term of 3 years, or until they attain the age of 70 years, whichever is earlier. It means for 6 persons, those 6 persons, if anyone is age is 65, assume, and anyone age is 68. Okay, so this person will retire after serving 3 years, fine, and this person will retiring after only 2 years. Okay, because here itself written, either they will give the service in NHRC for 3 years, or if they are completing their 70 years, whichever they will come earlier, okay, then after 70 years this person will not be able to survive more for 3 years. No, because one condition has been fulfilling, that is 70 years. Now if this person is only 65 years and after 3 years this person is 68 years, then no, this person will be not be continued. Okay, not continued for this session. Okay, this person will not be concluded even after they are not attending their 17 years of age, because anyone which will come first, either 3 years or 70 years of age, okay, anyone will completing, then that person will be just terminated from that time frame itself. I hope it is clear. So I am moving to the next slide. First of all, I have to erase it. Now let's see. Eligible for reappointment, either after completion of one term, either anyone is eligible for again included in NHRC, means reappointment. If anyone has served as 3 years in NHRC, or anyone has, means if 70 years crossed, then there will be no doubt. Okay, that person will be not included furthermore in NHRC. Okay, if that person is less than 70 years, right now give an example, that if person is 75 years, serving 3 years completed, remaining 2 years has been left, and if just give an example 61 years, 3 years he has been completed, she served, after 3 years he is been over, term is over, here also term is over, she is 68 years right now, he is 64 years right now. Fine. Then yes, there is no 70 years completed, so definitely they can, if president or those 6 members committee will again suggest this name, then these persons will again eligible for reappointment, but not for further employment under the central or the state government. Okay, if anyone has served in NHRC, after serving in NHRC, that person can be again included in NHRC only, otherwise that person cannot eligible for employment in any of the central government or a state government schemes. No, not eligible. I hope it is clear. So I am moving to the next slide, if any remaining, otherwise I think it's clear today itself. So that's it over, students. Okay, about NHRC, if anything will be left about NHRC, I will definitely cover in tomorrow session. Okay, in tomorrow class, if there will be left anything important about NHRC, I will cover. Fine. So I hope today's session is really interesting for you. We will meet tomorrow again at the same time. So keep studying with confidence, be confident in yourself, just this thing. Okay, so thank you so much. We will meet tomorrow again. Thank you.